The advantage of Zoom is no one can throw eggs.
Thank God. Okay, welcome everyone. Part
We
one
have
of
to buy eggs before Pesach.
yeah.
L'chatchila you should buy. If you didn't buy enough, or you don't have room in the fridge, there's room to be lenient. I could explain, but that's the
Eggs came up, so
yeah.
And milk.
So kosher Pesach, the super kosher, Chalav Yisrael you can buy. You don't have to buy before Pesach. Basically, the question is: was the eggs were the chickens laying eggs, or the milk, or the cows being milked on Pesach? Now, there's no need to buy it before Pesach. The concern is there a problem with the fact that those cows or those chickens were busy munching chametz on Pesach, and then you're eating the eggs and the milk that was produced by that chametz they were eating. So if you have a kosher cow who's only being fed oats, not oats, only being fed hay, would be no problem. But again, it's probably a non-Jewish farm who's feeding his animals, whatever. So there is a question: is there an issue of again purchasing food products on Pesach which were manufactured with chametz because that's what they ate on Pesach? So the Chalav Yisrael stuff, anything you find in the store was milked before Pesach, so therefore there's no problem with it. Therefore you can buy it on Pesach just as much as before. Eggs take actually a few days to get to market, so it's not exactly clear if the eggs that are available towards the end of Pesach are pre-Pesach eggs or Pesach eggs. So therefore it's preferable to buy them before Pesach to avoid that issue.
but if the chicken was eating chametz on Pesach, but the egg is not chametz, and it was done by
you're right. The egg not chametz. There's not a question: is the egg chametz? The question is, we know that there's a three-way prohibition when it comes to chametz. There's a prohibition to eat it, there's a prohibition to own it, and a prohibition to benefit from it. You can't be a truck driver transporting chametz on Pesach for a non-Jewish company, right? There would be a Torah prohibition to be paid to be a truck driver, like to be a Uber driver. The guy says, I need an Uber delivery of this pizza from Chris, from the non-Jewish bakery, non-Jewish store to Christopher and Christina. In other words, they can eat all the chametz they want, and the bakery can produce all the chametz they want. And I'm not eating it. I'm not even owning it. I'm just transporting it from A to B. But you're benefiting from it because you're getting paid to transport chametz. So there's a prohibition of benefiting from chametz independent. So then there is no question of the egg. Then there was an old custom that maybe the eggs they sat in the animal feed, so it might have chametz on the outside. That's a custom. But so anyways, bottom line is, if you can buy it before Pesach, it's preferable. If you can't, because you don't have enough room or you ran out, then you may buy it on Pesach. That's so if you'll see in books or hear about people who were strict to buy their eggs and milk before Pesach, it's not it's not coming from nowhere, but so it's a preferred thing to do. Okay, other questions before I start, or we're going to cover it all when we start. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 topics to cover. Bli neder. Between now and this week and next week, same station, right? And the topics are number 1, attitude to Pesach. Number 2, I'm sure Rabbi Mendel's speaking about it. Number 2 is product purchasing. Number 3 is medication purchasing. Number 4, cosmetics. Number 5, kitnios, legumes. Number 6, pets. Number 7, cleaning for Pesach. Number 8, koshering for Pesach. And number 9, if you didn't kosher it, so you were getting new stuff, you have to tovel it. So the brief review of the halachas of toveling. So that is the game plan from now until next week. Good? All clear? Okay, so we're going to start off with attitude.
Don't have it.
Don't have it. Don't have it. Pesach can be not easy at sometimes. This is true. I can't deny that. Although after I finish this class, it's supposed to be a lot easier. But in the end, it can be, cleaning for Pesach cannot be fun. Preparing for Pesach and the expenses of Pesach. It's all about attitude. The fact that something is hard doesn't make it bad and doesn't even make it not enjoyable. People who, a lot of people, climb Mount Everest. They pay a lot of money to climb Mount Everest. They don't do it because
their lives climbing.
and I'm not recommending you do this. You're nuts if you do, between you and me. Yeah, I do not recommend, the rabbi does not recommend risking your life climbing Mount Everest. But when you go, if you go skiing, I want to go skiing with my kids if I can. Skiing is as work. It's a workout when you ski. It's hard. You get tired. You sweat. So does that mean? So then I'm nuts. Then I'm a masochist because I'm paying money to sweat. And the answer is, if an activity can be enjoyable, because the activity has value, even though it's hard. Climbing mountains, I'm a big outdoors person. So hiking, all these things are difficult, but the fact that something's difficult does not make it bad and does not even make it not enjoyable. It's all about the attitude. So we have to refocus on the fact that everything we do for Pesach, whether it's cleaning or whether it's purchasing, whatever it happens to be, is a mitzvah. And mitzvahs are enjoyable. I mean, if mitzvahs are not enjoyable to a person, that's another thing they have to work on. But if a person thinks about the reward they get for the mitzvah, if they think about the fact that it brings meaning to your life, if they think about it's a new class about why mitzvahs are enjoyable and how to make mitzvahs more enjoyable. You can speak to Rabbi Dell, he would love to speak about the topic, and I'm sure he does. But if we refocus on the fact that everything we do, as we clean, as we prepare for Pesach, there is a joy in working hard to a valuable goal, in being involved in the mitzvah. So you shouldn't be afraid of Pesach because it's difficult. That's you shouldn't moan and groan Pesach is here. You're allowed to moan and groan a little bit. It's okay. We all do. We're all human. But to the extent that we can refocus that all that effort is rewarded and all that effort has benefit, and even in the if you end up with a clean house for Pesach, there was always customary to overdo Pesach cleaning. We're going to talk about not overdoing it, but it was certainly customary that people did. People, scraped their walls and washed the ceilings, and I don't know what they did. People repainted their houses. People went overboard for Pesach. That certainly was the traditional behavior. We will certainly speak tonight, or next week, that you don't have to do that. That's for sure true. But why was that so? Or why is that a good thing? It's a good thing to clean your house. It's a good thing to have an attitude to train yourself. An attitude of cleanliness and orderliness is a good thing. And a person can feel satisfaction in that happening too as part of the process. Anyway, so that's so the first thing before we start all the nitty-gritty details is it sometimes helps to refocus that everything I'm doing is a mitzvah. And the Almighty is happy for what I'm doing. And I'm demonstrating to my children and to myself that I put effort into something that's worthwhile. And we take joy in that. Okay, so that's the intro. So products. Okay, now we're going to try and make life easier on you. That's again what I'm trying to accomplish in this class and next class is trying to give you kind of the minimums that you need to do in order to be ready for Pesach in a kosher way. So first one is products. So the first thing is I like to point out one of the complaints about Pesach is that it's expensive. So I like to say that Pesach does not have to be an expensive holiday, because Pesach food, here we go, Pesach food is really not that expensive. Now, why do I say that? It's because Pesach food is not expensive if you avoid the Pesach section of your store. Because 95% of the food that you eat on Pesach does not change in price from Pesach version to non-Pesach version. Eggs cost the same, milk costs the same, meat costs the same, vegetables cost the same, fruit costs the same, frozen fruit costs the same, seltzer costs the same. Orange juice costs the same. Like one of your big friends is going to be in your. You should all get a hold of. You can either get the hardcover version. COR is little Guide to Pesach. Every major cost research organization in America, certainly the national ones like OK and of course OU, and certainly all the citywide ones. COR for Toronto and MK for Montreal and CRC in Chicago and Star K in Baltimore. All the major kashrus organizations, whether they're national or whether they're more, a little bit more local, but of course their products spread everywhere, all produce fantastic Pesach publications. And so if you happen to, it's unlikely, and they are all printed and also online. So it's unlikely you're going to get the print version of the Baltimore one or the print version of the Chicago one. But you can look at them online, and they have lots of useful information. And one of my favorite sections in all of them is the section called "Products that you can buy for Pesach that don't need to be KFP, kosher for Pesach." So in this, in the COR guide, they're going to have on page. If you look at the handy dandy index, it will say somewhere. It will say
21, page 21.
Page 21. Well, actually, no, page 16, 15 to be exact. Products that do not need to be KFP. Almonds in the shell don't need to KFP. Plain old almonds from Costco do not need to be KFP. Baking soda does not need to be KFP. Raw carrots, both baby carrots and regular carrots, doesn't need to be a KFP. You're going to go, through the regular coffee, any regular coffee, ground plain coffee. It does not need to be, is automatically KFP. If you need, once it's, the general rule is anything that's raw or unprocessed is going to be automatically KFP unless it has to be something you can't eat, like, you can't eat raw wheat, can't eat raw kit milk. If the product itself is forbidden, then you got a problem. But otherwise, if it's unprocessed, it's going to be okay, KFP. And if it's processed, then we have problems. So if you want to buy processed coffee, meaning they added flavors to it, or they decaffeinated it, or they turned it into instant coffee, then you have to look at your list to find out if there are versions which are KFP as they are, or you have to go to that expensive section that you want to try and avoid in the store called Kosher Pesach. Even matzah, by the way. Matzah is cheap. You gotta, manage to have his matzah. My favorite store, people who know me already, go to Costco. You go to Costco Yorkdale, if I'm speaking to everybody in Toronto. Costco Yorkdale has a Pesach section, has, yogurts and cheeses and herring and matzah and macaroons and a whole slew of stuff, which is KFP and is Costco pricing. And then, of course, there's a whole slew of stuff that's available for Pesach. That is KFP without having to be specially KFP. The sugar is KFP, and and the nuts are KFP, and you got a huge list of stuff which is kosher Pesach even without the special KFP. But again, if you're thinking of buying special kosher, they don't have a huge selection, not the same as Sobeys or No Frills. But it's still worthwhile if you're going to Costco anyways for Pesach products, check out Costco Yorkdale.
Go to Starbucks in the morning for coffee.
No, you can't. So you can't again. So I should mention that. Yeah. Again, once we're back to something that's raw and unprocessed, you're okay. And once they start processing it, it's going to be a problem. So if you want to go to Starbucks or whatever for coffee on Pesach, so you're going to have to hold back your coffee urge until after Pesach, because it's processed. It's processed in their vessels with the other stuff they use.
Cross-contamination with hummus.
Yeah, so everything. Yes, you're not going to, even if you normally go, even if your economics can afford to go to buy a $5 coffee every day when you can make it yourself, but that's okay. That's your decision. But on Pesach, you're going to save money because you're not going to pick up that coffee every day. So that'll have balance any other expenses you have. Anyway, so in your COR manual there, they'll have a whole list of products, and then the green ones are the stuff that doesn't need to be KFP. Fresh salmon does not need to be KFP. Kirkland Atlantic salmon is KFP as it is. Kirkland frozen, wild frozen is KFP if you rinse it off. Frozen orange juice is KFP without, automatically KFP. Hazelnuts in the shell, most nuts are okay. Real lime juice and real lemon juice is KFP without needing a special KFP. You'll have a whole, again, the frozen fruits, fresh fruits, Frozen fruits, which are just plain old frozen fruits, not processed, although they are always cut up and then put in flash frozen, are automatic. Frozen strawberries, all this type of stuff is automatically okay for Pesach. It's automatically KFP without any additional hechsher. Plain old tea, again. So that's the concept. So, but products which are processed, like your yogurt, although I said yogurt doesn't really go up in price, but you do have to buy KFP yogurt because it's processed. Once you took the milk and you added yeast to it and you run it through the cooking procedures and everything they do to make yogurt, and certainly if they're adding flavorings, so you understand that yogurt has to be KFP. But in general, the stuff doesn't really climb in price. The regular yogurt and the KFP yogurt, and cheese is the same thing. Anything else about products? Any questions on products of what I said?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
This has been an age-old debate about quinoa.
Brian, just speak up so they can.
Okay, quinoa.
Quinoa.
Because I know there's been varying opinions about quinoa.
So
One time it was kidney oat, now it's not kidney
So let's backtrack. So let's preempt with a new subject, and that new subject is kidney oat.
Should we just see if they have questions on that?
I'll answer this question because
I noticed it right here.
yeah. So kidney oat are legumes. That is like beans and peas and that type of thing. And your handy dandy COR booklet on page. It's in here somewhere. Page 24. Page 24 has the page on kidney oat. And it says, there's an article on it, and had beans and buckwheat and chickpeas and corn and edamame and green beans and lentils and mustard and peanuts and poppy seeds and rice, and all these things are kidney oat. In other words, they're not chametz. Chametz is only 5 grains: wheat, barley, oat, spelts, and rye.
But here it doesn't have kidney oat.
1 second. These are common kidney oat items.
Right, but it doesn't say quinoa.
Let me get to it step by step. So for the first, let's clarify kidney oat. So if you are Sephardi, so there are different customs. So for sure, kidney oat are not chametz, right? That's given because none of these things were wheat, barley, oat, spelt, and rye. So if you want to eat if you would eat a raw, if you eat corn on Pesach or rice on Pesach or green beans on Pesach, not wheat, not the 5 grains. So there's no question it's not kidney oat. Sorry, it's no question that it's not chametz. So from a Torah perspective, there's no prohibition on these things. In fact, there is a long, outstanding Ashkenazic custom to avoid consuming kidney oat on Pesach, which, if you're of Ashkenazi descent, you are obligated in that custom. And if you're of Sephardi descent, so then different Sephardi have different customs. Some do avoid rice, some don't avoid rice. There's different customs. You'll ask your LOR or find out what your family custom is. But so kidney oat, number one, is clearly there is a clear Ashkenazic custom which one has to keep to avoid, if Ashkenazi, to avoid consuming. There is no prohibition to own them, and there is no prohibition to benefit from them. Right? We said by chametz, we got 3 prohibitions. Right? You can't eat it. You can't even own it. I can't even stick it in my corner of the house. I have to sell it to the non-Jew, and I can't benefit from it. I can't be the guy who transports it. I can't be the guy except you can't benefit in any way. But those last 2, those are only true of chametz. Kidney oat is a custom not to consume. The other, you can own kidney oat. You just can't eat it, but you could feed it your pet. You could, you could feed it to your non-Jewish worker. You could do whatever you want with it. There's no problem with owning kidney oat. There's no problem with benefiting from kidney oat. There's a problem of consuming them. So you'll find, for instance, if you're in that section you're not supposed to go to, in Sobeys called Kosher PESACH. So you'll find you might find 2 kinds of mustard. You'll find one kind of mustard which is mustard, tastes like mustard, and is really mustard, and it should have a little sticker on it saying for Sephardim only, because it'll have mustard seeds in it, and mustard seeds are one of the types of kidney oat. So Sephardim who do consume kidney oat can purchase that and use it, and Ashkenazim who do not consume kidney oat will not purchase it. Or you could purchase it all you want, but you can't use it. And then they'll have another one which has some sort of like evil-looking, yellowish, strange liquid in it, and it'll say
Mustard
mustard,
Mustard style sauce.
Mustard.
It's disgusting stuff.
so first of all, you look at the price tag. It depends how badly you want it. It's all these things. So anyway, so that's why you might find tubes of mustard there. So that's how it goes with kitniot, and therefore, when you as much as you try to avoid that that dangerous aisle in the supermarket, dangerous on your wallet, you'll find some products which are labeled, for those who consume kitniot or something like that, or for Sephardim.
Yeah,
For those who consume kitniot, which means Sephardim.
The Diet Coke.
So Diet Coke. So yeah. So we'll step by step. So there is now starting in progress.
What about feeding kitniot to your children?
Feeding kitniot to your children. That's a good question, and the answer basically is. It really would depend on the age of the child. If it's a child who, practically speaking, almost all the baby formulas, and there is not a prohibition to your child to feed it to your child. However, there is an obligation to educate our child in the way of mitzvahs. And if you're Ashkenazi, one of your mitzvahs is not to consume. That's one of the customs of the Ashkenazi Jewish people, is not to consume kitniot on Pesach. So if your child is 4 years old, you could give them kitniot. I don't know why you're gonna, you're gonna have to cook it in a separate pot in your kitchen. It's not gonna be so practical. But if your 4-year-old child will refuse to eat his, would refuse to eat his, his sandwich unless he has real mustard on it, not the evil-looking mustard. So you could buy the Sephardi. You couldn't buy regular mustard because maybe regular mustard is processed on chametz vessels and who knows what. But you could buy the Sephardi mustard and use it for him. And like I'm saying, in most
There's a difference between Chol Hamoed and Yom Tov.
and there's no difference between Chol Hamoed and Yom Tov. It's all the same. It's just this is one of the things we don't consume on Pesach if you're Ashkenazi. So almost all the baby formulas have soy in them, which is kitniot. And so just like you can feed your 4-year-old the KFP Sephardi mustard, you certainly can feed your baby, and there's no problem feeding your baby the baby formulas that have kitniot in them.
Just you have to be careful that it's done in a separate vessel than your Pesach vessel.
Yeah, that is true. But you probably don't put your baby formula in your main cooking pot either. You probably just make it in their baby bottles. As we do now, we can finally get to come around to
Quinoa.
quinoa.
Because quinoa is a seed.
Quinoa is some things, for instance, peanuts. Is peanuts included in this Ashkenazi custom of not consuming kitniot or not? It is actually a difference of opinion. Some held, Rav Moshe held, that peanuts are okay on Pesach, even for Ashkenazim.
Who said it?
Rav Moshe held that.
Moshe Feinstein.
Rav Moshe Feinstein held that. The common custom is not to consume peanuts on Pesach, even if you're Ashkenazi. Like if you're in your handy dandy COR list there, it's got peanuts. But I'm saying, so there are some items which are clearly kitniot. It's not like the sages came out with an exclusive list of kitniot. They listed all the legumes which existed on planet Earth, and they when they went kitniot, peanuts, green beans, this and that. So there, by some things, there's universal agreement that these things are included in the prohibition of kitniot, and there are some things which are not universal. Some say yes, some say no. So your whatever they call it again,
Quinoa.
Quinoa is one of those things which is gray, meaning some say it's okay, some say it's not. So those who say it's not, so they say it's a legume and you can't consume it. And those who say it is, say you do have to buy KFP quinoa, because one of the reasons that people avoid legumes and quinoa is because you could have one of our famous 5 grains, wheat, barley, oats, spelt, and rye, mixed in there by accident. They could be processed in the same machinery, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to buy KFP quinoa. So if someone would if you call me on the phone and say can I eat quinoa, I would tell you if you really want to, you can. If you don't, there's a plus not to, but it's but someone who wants to consume it may, but you do have to buy KFP quinoa.
There's actually with an OUP picture.
So if you have it, so that's if you have OUP quinoa, someone who wants to consume it, can
My kids
has what
mental for quinoa,
they have what to rely on. Yep. Okay.
basically.
Okay. So that was quinoa and kitnio. Any questions on that? What have we got here? Kolamoid, snacks. Yeah.
Yeah, you did that already.
We did that already, and that's it. Okay. Next.
Any questions? You can unmute
Any
yourself.
any questions on product purchasing? Suggestions, ideas, honey.
Yes,
Honey.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Coconut milk. I couldn't find any coconut milk that is not marked as kitnio, and I cannot understand why it is kitnio.
Coconut milk.
I don't know why coconut milk would be kitnio. I don't even think you think. Listen here, coconut this and coconut that are okay. I don't know if
Is there seeds in it?
Coconut milk specifically, right?
Yes, I don't know. As we're back to if you buy a coconut on Pesach, crack it open, you can drink all that milk you want. The question is, you want to buy commercial coconut milk. So they made it in a factory, and they probably pasteurized it on equipment that was used for other things too. And so now we're back to maybe you need KFP because of its processing section, but that should be kitnio. Why should it be kitnio?
That's what I'm wondering.
Coconuts aren't a legume. Coconuts are a seed. It's a big
Nuts.
seed, but it grows.
Nuts, right.
Big seed from a palm tree. I think in here. One second. I'm just listening. Looking.
Let's say here, coconut oil requires,
Yeah, coconut oil.
shredded coconut requires,
Yes, but that's because of the processing.
yeah.
But
Well, if shredded coconut requires, then why wouldn't maybe
Shredded
coconut milk?
coconut that's unsweetened does not, it says right here.
oh, there you go. So there's an example. Coconut itself is not quinoa. Shredded coconut unsweetened is okay without is automatically KFP. Coconut oils also. Some of them are. I don't know where it is. Anyways, coconuts are not quinoa. Coconut, the coconut milk. We'll be back to the processing question. Some things like there's a concept. This is true of kashrus during the year and kashrus on Pesach also. Look, I just finished telling you, a little earlier, that you can buy any ground roasted coffee. Any ground unflavored roasted coffee is all okay for Pesach. So you should have jumped up and said, wait, you told me that raw stuff is fine. But if you buy ground coffee, that's processed. They roasted it. They roasted it in big, huge roasters, and they ground it, and so therefore it's processed. So how do we know that any ground coffee, no matter where I'm going to go, is okay? And the answer is basically those in the kashrus industries basically say we have a deep enough understanding of the way coffee is processed in the world that you can rely on that any plain old roasted coffee bean that you buy, the only place they roast it is the only thing they roast in those coffee roasters is coffee. They don't turn around. They don't roast wheat kernels next week. It's held up, put in the sun in Guatemala, and then they ship it off to here, and then when you get a roasted coffee bean, it's basic. So it's not because they survey, not because they have a hechsher in all these places. So there can be products just like you saw, like shredded coconut unsweetened is okay without a hechsher. Because as far as we know, and these guys, this is their industry. They're in the food, deep in the food industry. So as far as they know, shredded coconut is just that. They only process the shredded coconut. There's no additives, and the machines are only used for that. And therefore, you can buy shredded coconut unsweetened because there's no additives without a hechsher. Not only during the wear, even for Pesach. So it's just a question now with your milk processing. What's the reality, or if we don't know, then we have to reframe. Other questions?
Or what?
Thank you.
One of the categories of medication.
Coming up. Products comes medicine.
Just one more comment.
One more question.
Just to clarify, any instant unflavored
No. Let's try again. Any roasted coffee bean is automatically KFP. If it purchases ground, it's also okay. if you can't, I don't know if you can really grind it in the, sometimes you go to a store and they have you buy the beans and they have the grinder there. So now you're going to be getting, that's unflavored plain roasted coffee from, whatever, plain roasted coffee, like the real stuff, drip coffee.
Over here, though.
So wait, let me just finish. But once they process it, like when they make instant coffee, so now that instant coffee maker, the dryer, like, how do they make instant coffee? They boil up coffee and then they dry it. And if it's freeze dried, they use a spray. I forget what it's called. It's a column where they mist it into a column, and it turns, and they evaporate all the liquid. And those columns are used for other things. That machine is used for other things also. Wait. So therefore, so once it's turned into instant coffee, then you need to know whether that instant coffee needs to be specially KFP, or as industry insiders, we know that manufacturer, when they make their instant coffee, that's the only thing they make on the machinery. So in here, it'll say something like, let's see what it says here. So regular beans, whole ground, okay, automatically KFP. If you want to buy instant, it needs to be KFP. If you want to buy Taster's Choice instant regular, so that we know they only make Taster's Choice only when the only thing they make on that machine is Taster's Choice instant regular, not decaf, nothing, and not flavored. And therefore, you're allowed to buy Taster's Choice instant, even without a KFP. Or to say the other way, it is automatically KFP. But regular instant coffee does need to be KFP because we're worried about the machinery being used for other things also. Okay, good. Okay, medications, medicine. The Gemara says a basic rule. Look, we know that chemicals, the non-kosher products, non-kosher food products, are made ultimately of chemicals, right? Molecules, atoms. So what is it? So at what point does the non-kosher food lose its food category and enter the chemical category? In which case, it's just a bunch of chemicals, just a bunch of atoms all mixed up, which you could, I don't know if it's safe, you have to ask your doctor if it's safe to consume, but it's no longer called food, and therefore it's no longer called forbidden food. So the Gemara says that at the point where a dog wouldn't eat it, that's the magic transition point. So if I have a pork chop, or I have a bread sandwich, okay, and you leave it out in the sun, and you've left it out for many days, many weeks, whatever, and it starts to turn green, and all sorts of things, that if you would offer to, when a dog walks by it, he turns his nose up at it. Normally he likes bread. I mean, if he doesn't like bread, it's not a proof, but he normally likes bread, or he likes pork chops. But he passes by this thing, and he turns his nose up at it. So at that point, this is no longer considered food, and it's no longer considered chametz, and from a technical point, you could consume it. There's a rabbinic problem of consuming it directly, but that's the concept. So if you have food which is no longer edible, it's to a dog, so then it's no longer food. So the basic concept when it comes to both medicines and cosmetics is, if this conceptually, if it's not edible, it doesn't taste good, it's bitter, or it's in a form like it's a cream, or it's like your underarm deodorant stick, okay, that's not edible. Sorry, even if it smells good. I don't know if it says right guard on it, or who knows what it says on it. But it's not edible. If you cut it up and put it in your dog's dish, you might have a bite on your ankle the next day. So if that item is in it, or like a mascara, anything which has become gone so far, even if it has chametz in it, but if it's gone so far as to the state of inedibility, so it's really not considered chametz anymore. That's the baseline that we work from. So therefore, if we have food which is edible, tastes good, or medicines which taste good, or let's say you have a lipstick or a lip gloss which you're consuming, and I don't know you eat it as food, but when you lick it, it doesn't taste bad, and they flavor it. So then it needs to be KFP or it needs to be investigated that it has no chametz in it. If it's chapstick, so really unflavored chapsticks, not so simple. It could be they're okay. Flavored chapstick should have. If you look in your COR publication, or if you go online, they have a list of the chapsticks that are okay and the chapsticks that are not okay. So that's the baseline. Let's modify that a bit. So first of all, we modify it a bit by saying that so if its form may make it inedible. If in liquid form and it contains chametz, obviously, like it contains an alcohol or something like that. So then there's a concern. I used to have an article. I didn't bring it with me, but I had an article in the Toronto Daily Star from many years ago on it was an article about Lysol abuse. If you would visit places where people who are low on money are hanging out, you'll find a lot of punctured Lysol cans. Why? Because Lysol. What's that? You and I think Lysol is clearly inedible, but there is a significant subgroup of people who think that Lysol is actually edible because it has alcohol in it, and it's cheaper what you can buy at the LCBO. So when you have liquids with alcohol in them, so since they are, even not with difficulty, but since they are in theory edible, so then you are going to need them to be KFP, or to determine that liquid does not have any alcohol in it. So therefore, when you have perfumes and I don't know, cleaning liquids and I don't know, all sorts of I'm trying to think about even deodorants. If you have a spray deodorant, so that spray, a powder, you have a powder spray, so that powder is inedible. If you have a solid or you have a gel, that's inedible. But if you have a liquid that you're spraying out of the can, so if that liquid has alcohol in it, so now we're back to so that alcohol could be, in theory, considered consumable, and therefore you have to check the COR list to make sure that that particular spray liquid deodorant does not have any chametz in it. And they have a huge list there. This one, arid this, arid that, you look at the whole list there online, or so you can get the book. I think online they have actually a bigger list than they do in the book. Like I looked up pet food. So the pet food article, which we'll get to, but the pet food article in the book here, is a couple pages long and lists a few pet foods. But if you go see our website, it lists 150 different pet foods. What to feed your gerbil, what to feed your iguana, what to feed your parakeet, what to feed your dogs, your cats, and they have the solid foods, the light foods, the canned foods. A much bigger selection. So it could be that when it comes to cosmetics, there's the online list is better than the in-print list. Also, what is true when you're looking up these products, all these things when you're looking up all products, so you have to be careful that there can be differences between the U.S. publication and the Canadian publications, because the manufacturing process for the same material, for the same item, could be different when it comes from a U.S. plant or a Canadian plant. It may use different ingredients than the same net result, but if the ingredients are different, so it may be different. So if you're buying something purchased in the States or sourced in the States, that's a better way of saying it, then you really should look at the, unless COR guide covers it, you should look at the U.S. If you're buying, if you're buying pet food in the States, manufactured in the States, as opposed to something manufactured in Canada. I know like the Canada one says here, there's an example when he talks about one of the medications. Metamucil, maybe. There's medications here. Let's see, let's look at the index. Medications is on page 26. So on page 26, it says, laxatives. Benefiber. The Canadian version is perfectly okay, and the U.S. version of Benefiber is chametz, and you may not consume it. So there can be differences between U.S. manufactured stuff and Canadian. Worth looking into if you're depending what side of your border you're buying from. Okay, so back to cosmetics and medications. If it doesn't taste, the bottom line, the baseline is if it doesn't taste good, either because of the taste factor or because of its form factor, it would be okay. If it's liquid, then you have to, and has alcohol in it, then you have to go back to your lists. And then on top of that, there's a plus to avoiding it if it has real chametz in it. It's not an obligation, but it's a plus. So if you're thinking of buying, I don't know, some cosmetic, and it says in the COR list, this one has chametz in it, so you would be preferable to use, even though it's in, an inedible form factor, it'd be preferable to purchase one that's does not have chametz in it. I'm not saying obligatory, but it'd be preferable to do so. Something which is consumed, either directly consumed, and tastes good, or even indirectly consumed and tastes good, like lipstick. So then you should consult the list and buy something that is something. If you're buying a cream you just apply to your hand, you don't need to look at the list. If you're buying cream you're putting in your lips, which you taste. So then you should look at the list to see which ones are acceptable, which is not. There's a question about, often they say, buy a new this or open a new jar. The lipstick I use is perfectly okay. Do I need to buy a new one for Pesach? Or my sugar is, any sugar is okay. Do I need to buy a new sugar for Pesach?
Or meats. Somebody else.
So meats. Let's step by step. So the concern is, there are those that are concerned that maybe there's some chametz that fell into your sugar, or maybe some chametz fell into your salt, or do I need to buy a new sifto salt container? So that's very hard to hear. I don't know what chametz is getting into my sifto salt container. So I think the same old sifto salt container is okay. The baking soda, all baking sodas are kosher for Pesach. You don't need a special KFP baking soda. So can I use the same baking soda as I use during the year? So the question is, I'm sticking my spoon in there to serve my, all through the whole year to use it. So did some flour get in there? So there's a plus to using a new one. Not obligatory, the plus, and now you see where the plus is coming from. The lipstick. So did I just eat a donut and then put lipstick on, and then there's a little bit of powder from the donut that got on my lipstick? Maybe yeah, maybe no. So there's a plus to getting new lipstick, but it's not obligatory. So if you're thinking of getting a new lipstick anyways, so buy for Pesach. But if you don't need the expense, you do not plan to get a new one, so you're not obligated to get a new lipstick for Pesach as long as the current lipstick is on the KFP list. Any questions on that?
Meats.
Good? Meats. So basically, raw meat, raw unprocessed meat is basically always KFP. That's the concept. So COR chicken, not ground chicken, not ground beef, but plain old chicken is KFP all year round, even if it didn't have the KFP on it. Because all they do in the factory is cut up the chicken and put it in a styrofoam container. That's the basic process. And they salt it. Salt is always KFP. But once the meat has been processed, certainly if they add spices or anything, or if it's been browned, so those often when they make hot dogs, so there's additives, right? You put all sorts of junk in there to make the hot dog taste good. So the same grinders are used to grind your beef and grind your chicken, and so if it's KFP chicken or ground chicken or ground beef, then they've cleaned all those grinders for Pesach to make sure there's nothing in there. But you can't use the regular year-round ground beef or ground chicken. Other questions on? Was it?
With alcohol.
Sorry.
Alcohol.
So basically, alcohol. So alcohol we're back to processing. In other words, someone asked me, why can't I buy vodka? Vodka is made from potatoes. Anybody who keeps Pesach is certainly familiar with the fact that potatoes are KFP. So if all I did was take potatoes and boil them up and then siphon off the alcohol, all vodkas should be KFP. And the answer is, you're right, but now you're back to a processed product. So what else did they make in that distillation process and in the bottling process? So now you come around to the fact that you're going to basically need a KFP on all your processed drinks. Now, if you have an alcohol, let's say you had a vodka which is on the list. This vodka is okay, or certainly, it's very common. It's become very common. Is the Mexican one,
Tequila.
Tequila, thank you. Tequila is made from agave, whatever it's placed. Not made. It doesn't have cactus, so it doesn't have any no kidneys in there and no chametz in there. So in theory, they all should be KFP. But we're back to the problem of what machinery is used. So there's research that's been done. And you'll look at their list and they'll say this one and this one and this one. We researched, and that's all they make is it's a non-Jewish company, but all they make is tequila, and they don't make anything else there. And you can buy it; it's automatically KFP. And these other ones need KFP. So you'll have to look at the liquor lists of the KFP liquor lists. I'm sure COR will have one on their website, and certainly now CRC is in CRC of Chicago is great for their liquor lists during the year and for Pesach. And if you have an already open bottle, so as far as I'm concerned, it's like you're already open salt, you're already open sugar.
Right.
So if you poured anything in there, or if you think other things fell in there, so then it would be a problem. And if you don't think it did, so then nothing did.
Or someone's pointing out that most vodkas today are made from wheat.
Oh, okay, but
Most vodkas are grain almond.
yeah, okay, or whatever it is. So anyway, but in terms of drinks, alcoholic drinks, unless you made your own moonshine.
Most wines and wines are mostly OUP anyway.
Yeah, and most wines are most wine manufacturers realize there's a big market for their wines when it comes to Pesach. I guess Purim and Pesach, but Pesach, a lot of people drinking the 4 cups and Yom Tov, and so they want, and there's no reason why it only contains grapes and yeast. So if they're smart, and they are, so they generally will make their stuff all year round. KFP, but you do need to have KFP on the bottle because of other things they may have bottled and other things they may have pasteurized in the same equipment. So you do have to check that your wine or grape juice is KFP, but it's quite common that it'll be KFP all year round. They'll say OUP on it all year. But it does need to have the P on it. P doesn't mean Parv, P means Pesach, Passover.
A lot of people buy toothbrushes specifically.
So let's talk about toothpaste. So the COR will tell you that since really, if you cut open your tube of toothpaste and put it in your dog's dish, you have a special treat for you: peppermint ice cream, peppermint icing for dessert. So again, I think you have to make sure you wear ankle guards because you might get a bite. I don't think you'll be happy. So it should be that, and truth is, in my humble opinion, the base rule is that all toothpaste are KFP. However, some are concerned it's a little bit like lipstick. It is edible. I remember my old camping days. You could use it. It may sound funny, but you could use it as peppermint icing, and it certainly is consumable. I know you love that. Rabbi Mandel liked that one. Anyways, so therefore they do recommend that you get toothpaste and mouthwash, which is KFP, which means, they say Crest is KFP. This Crest we research, and there is no chametz in there. And that you can buy if you go through the kosher aisle, I bet you'll find the super kosher one. But if you look at your COR list, this and this Colgate and this Crest, this again, because they have additives, the whitener and the this and that. So these ones are just plain old. I don't know what's in there.
So it is a legitimate concern.
It's a concern. It's a concern. I'm saying really again. I think
it's royal feels
I don't think again. It's a machlokas. There are different opinions out there, and COR will say it's and I'll say too. It's good to be stringent. It's a nice thing to be stringent. Not obligatory is too strong. It's a nice piece, especially since again you don't have to get this out of the KFP aisle. You just look at the list and I'll tell you. Let's see what the scholars do. What he says: personal care items. You have to go on the website. Doesn't have the list here.
And toothbrushes also.
So toothbrushes. The concern with toothbrushes is that you brush your teeth. Yeah, you brush your teeth. You ate your pizza yesterday, or you ate the pizza this morning, and now you brush your teeth, and there's little particles of pizza left in there. And if you look at people, it depends on the person. Some toothbrushes are clean, and some toothbrushes. Sometimes you look at your kid's toothbrush and say, "Nope, time to change that toothbrush." So again, I can't tell you that you're obligated to get it. If you looked at your toothbrush and you see that there are no particles in there, so I can't tell you that you're obligated to get a new toothbrush. It's if you're thinking of changing your toothbrush anyways, it's a nice thing to do, but that's where it's coming from. There's nothing that your toothbrush didn't really become chametzik. You didn't boil your toothbrush in your oatmeal. It's just a worry about the food particles that may still be in there. So that's the concern. So it's a nice thing. I mean, practically speaking, when we'll get into how we're doing for time.
30.
We have okay, so we'll come up to questions and probably stop for today. So practically speaking, a person, especially when we get into koshering, I'm going to recommend that you over time you acquire your Pesach supplies that you're going to put away. You put away from year to year. So typically, you'll have a set of Pesach toothbrushes. You bought if the toothbrush that I had before Pesach was perfectly good. I didn't need a new toothbrush. If you need a new one, so fine, just use a new one starting from Pesach. But I didn't need a new one. So you know what? So I'll open up a new toothbrush, and I'll use it for Pesach, and I'll put it away at the Pesach supplies. So next year, when I open it up and take out my I don't know, whatever it is, when I take out my pots and pans, there's the Ziploc with the toothbrushes in them. So it's an easy thing to do. I'm not saying you're obligated to do so, but it's an easy thing to do, and I think it's fairly common. Any questions on what we said?
If anyone has a question, you can speak up. Next week, God willing, we'll cover cleaning.
Pets, koshering, toveling, and cleaning.
Pets, koshering the kitchen, cleaning, and toveling, immersing the vessels in the mikvah. And that'll conclude that. Any questions? You can unmute yourself, or you can text it on the chat.
I just wanted to wish Rabbi Mandel happy birthday, personally.
Should we all? Everybody can unmute and say you and sing him happy birthday.
If anyone has any questions for Rabbi Cohen, but I'll take the thank you, Usher.
Well,
No, we will not have Rabbi Cohen sing.
No, I didn't say that's me. I said you guys can unmute yourselves.
No, that's okay. I've heard enough terrible singing today. Anyone have any questions?
Any other questions?
We'll get to pets next week.
All good. It's either perfectly clear or perfectly not clear. Okay.
Last chance. Oh, so funny. Thank you. Rabbi, it was for you.
Okay, everybody. Well,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for joining, and stay tuned and enjoy the week. And to be continued. See you in Costco.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
You know what? You learn